It's just the opportunity cost of selecting a left guard in the first round when those other premium positions, like this guard better be special.
Next player we want to talk about is Boston College offensive lineman Zion Johnson. Strategically calling him an offensive lineman because this guy can play all over the place, right? And he has played as far outside as tackle. I don't think anybody here is projecting Zion Johnson as a tackle at the next level, but at least you know the versatility is there in a pinch. He can get you through it, but we're projecting him in the inside. And this is one of our highest rated interior offensive linemen in this year's class. Zion Johnson, very impressive for both the floor and the ceiling, Joe. You've been talking to this guy for quite some time.
Yeah, he started his college career at Davidson as a non-scholarship athlete, and then he goes to Boston College. And guys, we know Boston College has a great reputation for offensive linemen. Didn't take long for him to become a starter, and you felt the impact, and you saw him, create movement in the run game. You saw him get out in space and connect with moving targets, and you saw a rock-solid guy in pass protection. And I love his growth at Boston College because that first year he's at left guard. The second season he kicks over to left tackle, and thought his first game was a little rough, but then he settled in nicely at left tackle. I don't project him best there to the NFL because I just feel like he just thrives at guard so much, and we saw him a little bit at center at the Senior Bowl. Comes back for his final season, plays left guard, dominates once again. And I love the evaluation that you get coming out of Boston College, where Coach Heffley up there, he's running NFL offense. And so you're seeing vertical sets, you're seeing him get in a three-point stance and roll his hips into contact. And that's what makes offensive line evaluation so difficult sometimes, is because the way that college teams play offense and what they ask their offensive linemen to do, it's really different compared to what they're going to be asked to do at the next level. And so you saw him be a high-impact player with clean technique, great control, and do things that he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. And I've cooled on the term plug-and-play starter at offensive line after I did some research a couple years ago. But I'll say that Zion Johnson's a plug-and-play starter.
Yeah, I think he's someone that has a ton to like. I mean, one, he comes from a school that's known for putting out smart offensive linemen. I mean, so from a technique standpoint, he's done well. He's played up and down the offensive line. I think he's someone who can play in a few different schemes. So I think the teams will certainly like the player, mainly for his versatility.
If we're going to present him objectively, what concerns, right? Because I think we all perceive this player as a very high floor but also high ceiling player. What pops if I asked you guys yeah, but this is something we do need to be mindful of for him?
For me, it's the value of guards in general, right? Mm. And it's one of those things where, for me personally, if I'm drafting a guard in the first round, which I think it's safe to say we all expect at the end of the day Zion Johnson to be a first-round pick, I need to see a certain level of dominance in his tape. And while I think Zion is a very, very high floor type of player, I'm not sure I saw many instances of straight dominance where he's just displacing defensive tackles in the run game and really causing a ton of movement and getting that kind of explosive push. Maybe he's like a guy like Kenyon Green, who we'll talk about later, but Zion doesn't have that kind of power in his bag. And so while I think he's going to be, as Joe mentioned, we don't like to say plug and play. I think he's a plug and play player, but when we're talking about a first round pick at guard, does he have that kind of high ceiling, that high end type of ability where he's going to be perennial Pro Bowler? I don't know if I see that in his game. But again, he's a player where I feel really good about. Probably a can't miss guy, but what's his ceiling?
I would answer that, and I guess I'll use a baseball reference, right? Like, you don't always need a guy that can hit home runs. You don't want a home run, a strikeout guy. A consistent double guy, this guy is going to give you a double every single game that you can count on. That's a guy you want in your lineup because you can count on that, and I think that's what Zion Johnson is. You know exactly what you're getting. Like Kyle, you mentioned, this guy's a high-floor guy. We seen him at the Senior Bowl. He showed well. He competed, and guess what? Even after practice, what was he doing? Still trying to get better. So you talk about the mental aspect, the integrity, respecting the game, understanding that he has to continue to get better. I buy all in from that standpoint.
And I completely agree. I've said this a ton during our staff meetings and so forth. I feel like guards, you can find good guards, good starting guards in the third or fourth round. So if you're picking a guy where he's projected to go by some people in round one, he's got to be special, right? And I don't see that from Zion. He's a good college football player. I don't think he's special enough to be a first-round guard playing, a role where it isn't a premium spot. I mean, so I think that would be the concern with picking him in the first round. This is still a good football player who can still be a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's no knock to Zion. Like, I think me and you were saying him. Let's make it clear. Like, we all value Zion as a day one starter in the NFL, right? I mean, almost every team in the league will be happy to have Zion Johnson as your left guard. It's just the opportunity cost of selecting a left guard in the first round when, those other premium positions, like, this guard better be special.
Does him having the ability to play center help?
I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I wanted to get into. That this guy showed
done it in a game.
He hasn't done it in a game, but we've seen him work hard at it at the Senior Bowl, and that doesn't mean that he can't do it at a high level of success. But he's willing to work at it. And when you talk about the intangibles, his intangibles are off the charts. And when you talk about a guy to be a glue guy for your interior offensive line, like multiple teams have showed us how important that position is, especially for quarterbacks and guys, collapsing into the pocket. So, yeah, his athletic traits to me don't pop off the screen, but I think the versatility, the off-the-field intangibles, I don't mind taking this guy in the first round.
Contrast his performance at the Senior Bowl at center versus that of Cole Strange, who's a player that we really like too, and we value as a top 100 prospect. But Cole moved to center and really struggled. You wouldn't have guessed this was the first time Zion Johnson was playing center at the Senior Bowl. So it's an interesting kind of projection for landing spot, positional versatility, positional value. He's going to be a good case study. All I know is I just watched a guy from USC last year. A team traded a bunch of day 2 picks to go up and get him in the top 15, Elijah Vera Tucker and the New York Jets. So only takes one team.
Yeah.
And I'll just let my placement speak for itself. I got Zion all the way up. So that's where I stand on Zion Johnson, offensive lineman, Boston College.